नमः श्री यतिराजाय विवेकानंद सूरये सच्चित् सुख स्वरूपाय स्वामिने
This evening there is greater strength. Why? You have this is supposed to be for MA, MPhil and BA students, right? Okay. BA students are also attending. How many of you are BA students? So you include a BA integrated course, right? So some of them are MA. How many of them are MAs students? And research students? How many? Okay. So this is actually they call it MA, MPhil, PhD, but BA students are also attending, integrated BA students are attending. I am very happy that all of you are interested in these classes. This course is a very general title. I wanted to make it a little flexible so that we can take up many topics. I have a huge list of topics that I wanted to cover under useful Western knowledge for Sanskrit students. One of them is environmental studies. Do you have environmental studies as part of your course? Okay. So just let me know what environmental studies you have. Is it just a Western environmental studies, or was it taught from Sanskrit literature? Environmental studies from Sanskrit literature. No, it's not environmental studies from Sanskrit literature. It is biology, ecology, animal kingdom, water cycle, carbon dioxide cycle, nitrogen cycle, food chain, biodiversity. Oh, okay. So that is purely Western knowledge. So that is what we want, Western knowledge. But how is it useful for Sanskrit studies? Do we have environmental knowledge in Sanskrit studies? That is what we are going to discuss here. Okay. Another thing I wanted to cover is psychology, particularly psychoanalysis, particularly Jungian psychoanalysis. Another thing I wanted to cover is historical linguistics. Under which we have the main concept Indo-European linguistics. Did you have Indo-European linguistics as part of your course, MA course? How many of you have heard Indo-European? Where? In linguistics class. Okay. What was taught in linguistics class to you? For example, let me just mention some things like did you hear phonology there? Phonology? Did they tell you something like phonetics? And do you know phone and phoneme? Phone and phoneme and allophone? You know phoneme. What is phoneme? फोन के बिना तो फोनीम नहीं बन सकता है. आप लोग बोल रहे हैं कि फोनीम जानते हैं, फोन नहीं जानते हैं. फोन के बिना तो फोनीम नहीं बन सकता है. फोनीम, आपको फोनीम समझ में आना है तो फोन का पता लगना चाहिए. फोन क्या है, फोनीम क्या है, फोनेटिक्स क्या है, फोनोलॉजी क्या है, आर्टिकुलेटरी फोनोलॉजी कौन सा है, अकॉस्टिक फोनेटिक्स कौन सा है, ऐसा तो नहीं चला ना. ऐसा हम करेंगे, हम वो सब करेंगे, है ना. बाद में मॉर्फोलॉजी. डिड दे टेल यू एनीथिंग अबाउट मॉर्फोलॉजी इन लिंग्विस्टिक्स? लिंग्विस्टिक्स ओनली, लिंग्विस्टिक्स क्लास. हु वाज टीचिंग यू लिंग्विस्टिक्स? क्या नाम है प्रोफेसर का? सोमनाथ चक्रवर्ती. बाहर से आए थे ना? यहीं के हैं? हाँ हाँ हाँ. कितने क्लासेस थे, कितने आवर्स का कोर्स था? 32 आवर्स में फोनीम सुने हैं. और मॉर्फोलॉजी में क्या सुने हैं? मॉर्फीम सुने हैं. मॉर्फीम क्या है समझ में आया? नहीं. बंगाली में पढ़ाए थे क्या? अच्छा. रूप तत्व. रूप तत्व में ओके ओके. फोनोलॉजी भी बंगाली में पढ़ाए थे क्या? ओके. बंगाली में फोन को क्या कहते हैं, फोनीम को क्या कहते हैं, एलोफोन को क्या कहते हैं, ये मुझे पता नहीं है, इसलिए मैं आपको बता नहीं सकता हूँ. फिर भी मैं जब फ़ोन बोलता हूँ, फोनीम बोलता हूँ और एलोफोन बोलता हूँ तो आप भी बताना बंगाली में इसको ये बोलते हैं, ये बोलते हैं बोल के, तब मेरे समझ में आएगा. और मॉर्फोलॉजी में रूप तत्व, रूप शास्त्र में मिनिमम यूनिट मॉर्फीम को क्या कहते हैं? रूपीम. हाँ रूपीम. रूपीम बताइए क्या रूपीम क्या है? फोनोलॉजी में फोनीम को क्या कहते हैं बंगाली में? स्वनीम बोलते हैं. ओके. और स्वनीम के अलावा क्या है बंगाली में? वो हाँ फोन में स्वनीम तो है, स्वन भी होना चाहिए. अगर स्वन है तो स्वनीम बनेगा, है ना. अच्छा चलेगा, बाद में देखेंगे. अर्थ विज्ञान, सेमेंटिक्स. सेमेंटिक्स था, सेमेंटिक्स पढ़ाए. हिस्टोरिकल लिंग्विस्टिक्स था उसमें. चारित्रक भाषा विज्ञान, उसमें इंडो यूरोपियन लिंग्विस्टिक्स था. उसमें क्लासिफिकेशन ऑफ लैंग्वेजेस. ओके चलेगा. अब बाद में वहाँ तक आएंगे. और इनमें से let us start with environmental studies, because you already know environmental studies from the Western point of view, whatever they taught you. Let me then go to the environmental studies in Sanskrit literature. There is a huge list of things that I want to cover under this Western knowledge that for Sanskrit studies, but for now this is the menu. Okay. Let us go one by one. And in environmental studies, you probably heard of something called ecosystem, right? Ecosystem. What is an ecosystem? Your bathroom is an ecosystem. Did they tell you that? Bathroom is an ecosystem. How is bathroom an ecosystem? Biotic and abiotic components are in relation with each other. And let me give you a definition of ecosystem. These ecosystems are self-regulated and self-sustained systems. Can you make note of this word? You have a pen and pencil, paper. हाथ के ऊपर लिख दो अगर कागज नहीं है तो. हाँ, फोड़ दो कागज. ले. आपका क्या हुआ? इसमें से फोड़ लो. एक कागज दे दो इसको. है कागज? कपड़े के ऊपर भी लिख सकते हो. अगर कागज नहीं है तो शाल के ऊपर लिख लो. Okay, the word is self-regulated, self-regulated and self-sustained. Self-regulated and self-sustained system. What is self-regulated? You can also say auto-regulated and auto-sustained systems. We use the word automobile. What is automobile? Which runs by itself. Auto means by itself. Okay? अपने आप चलता है. Right? Automobile. And we have automatic. Automatic also means that. So auto is अपने आप. Right? So self-regulated is अपने आप चलने वाला. अपने आप नियंत्रित होने वाला. Right? आत्मनियंत्रित. You understand that word? Okay. Then self-sustained is which is sustained, पोषित, आत्म पोषित है, आत्मनिर्भर है, आत्मजीवित है. It is sustained by itself. So a bathroom is sustained by itself. No outside support is required. It can regulate itself, it is controlled by itself, it is supported by itself. Everything that it needs to sustain, it is there inside that system. Self-regulated system, self-sustained system, right? Okay. Now, if you see living organisms and non-living entities, what is the difference? Living organisms are self-regulated and self-sustained systems, right? You heard of Newton's laws of motion. What is the first law of Newton? बंगाली में बोल सकते हो, संस्कृत में भी बोल सकते हो. What is the first law of Newton? Every body continues in its state of rest or of uniform motion in a straight line unless it is compelled by external forces to change its state or direction. Is this not Newton's law? So let us apply it to a mosquito, a housefly, मच्छर. मच्छर अपने आप चल नहीं सकती है ना. It continues in its state of rest or it continues in its state of motion. It cannot stop by itself, right? It can. So Newton's law is not applied to mosquito. This fellow mosquito is against Newton. He is saying, no, I don't want to follow Newton. It is not following. Can you start by yourself? Can you stop by yourself? Can you change your direction? You are also against Newton. Housefly is against Newton. Tiger is against Newton. Dog is against Newton. All living organisms are against Newton. it does not mean that we are all against Newton. Newton's laws of motion are not applicable to living organisms. Newton's laws of motion are applicable only to non-living entities. Not only Newton's laws, every rule in physics, every formula in physics, every theory, every law that is there in physics applies only to non-living organisms. That means that physics is a subject of non-living entities. Physics is a subject that deals with non-living entities. Every law, first law of thermodynamics applies to non-living entities. Second law, zeroth law. Do you know that there is a law called zeroth law of thermodynamics? You may not know, but there is a zeroth law of thermodynamics also. And there is second law of thermodynamics. You know second law of thermodynamics? Entropy, heat cycles, reversible systems. All these apply only to non-living organisms. People say that Vaisheshika Darshanam is actually physics. It's not, because Vaisheshika Darshanam does not cover only non-living entities. Physics covers only non-living entities. Vaisheshika Darshanam has laws which are applicable to living entities also. The perspective of Vaisheshika Darshanam is a holistic perspective. It has laws that can be applied to living and non-living also. So, if someone tells you that Vaisheshika Darshanam is all physics, please don't believe in that. Okay, now we come to these bathroom now, back to bathroom. Bathroom is an ecosystem. Is it, if it is self-regulated and self-sustained, it is like a mosquito. Because mosquito is also self-regulated and self-sustained. You are also self-regulated and self-sustained. Are you? Okay. So, we are all of us are self-regulated and self-sustained. We are like a bathroom. Bathroom has its own life. Bathroom is an organic entity. We use the word bathroom is an organism. It is something like an organism. All ecosystems are organisms. For example, we say a forest is an ecosystem. In environmental studies class, they told you that forests are ecosystems. Each forest runs by itself. It is a self-regulated, self-sustained, auto-maintained, auto-regulated, auto-sustained system. That means that forest is an organism. That means that forest is a living entity. Like a mosquito, like you, forest is also a living entity. Because the feature of life is self-regulated and self-sustained, that is there in it, in that system. Do you agree? So, forest is also an organism. All ecosystems are organic. We use the word organic. Organic means it has got units inside it which are mutually dependent and mutually helping, and in such a way that they regulate each other, and there is a process of regulation of those units inside it, and it is, that process is not dependent on anything outside itself, it is dependent on itself. Okay? So, that has that, and there is a small trick in this word self-regulated and self-sustained. If you see self-regulated, it means that it is regulated by self. What is this self? In Sanskrit, we use the word Atman for it, right? So, it means that every entity which is organic, which has life, has self in it, Atman in it. Why is a mosquito a living organism? Because it is self-regulated, self-sustained, that is, Atman is there in it, Atman is controlling it. That is, that self-nature, that auto-nature inside living entities is being called as Atman. You understand? So, it means that forest also has got Atman, bathroom also has got Atman, every organic entity also has got Atman, And if you understand ecosystems this way and go on looking at multiple ecosystems that exist, finally you arrive at what is called as cosmic ecosystem. The whole universe is a huge ecosystem made up of ecosystems. The ecosystems that we are talking about, our own house, this garden, smaller units of universe, planets, solar system, stars, and solar systems around each of these stars, galaxies, and a huge cosmos that we have. The whole thing is an ecosystem. If it is an ecosystem, it has to be organic. If it is organic, it has to be a self-regulated and self-sustained system. If it is self-regulated and self-sustained, then it has got a self. What is that self? Cosmic self. The cosmic ecosystem has got cosmic self. You agree? Now let me tell you the secret in the Vedas, right from Rig Veda itself, is that everything that is self-regulated and self-sustained, that is everything that is organic, was given the name Purusha. Okay? You have Purusha Sukta, for example. What is it talking about? It is talking about a Purusha with millions of heads. Sahasra there does not mean 1,000, not exactly 1,000. Millions of, numerous, multitudinous heads, multitudinous eyes, multitudinous feet, right? What is that? It is the cosmic ecosystem only. The entire universe, entire cosmos is being described as Purusha there. It is doing environmental studies only. Purusha Sukta is giving you environmental studies only. It is giving you a huge ecosystemic view of the cosmos, of the entire universe. I think you knew that Purusha Sukta is talking about cosmic ecosystem only. You knew? But did you call it ecosystem? Now you call it ecosystem. Okay. And you knew that Purusha Sukta was talking about Virat Purusha, right? That Virat is cosmic. We have that cosmic Purusha in it. And we have words like Vastu Purusha. You know that there is a word called Vastu Purusha? In Vastu Shastra, they use the word Vastu Purusha. What is Vastu Purusha? Now apply whatever you learnt now to Vastu Purusha and tell me what is Vastu Purusha. We are saying that a residence, any residence, is Vastu Purusha. It has got Vastu Purusha in it. It means that every residence is an ecosystem, right? By residing in it, you are making it into an ecosystem, and that organic nature of that residence is becoming Vastu. What is the dhatu in Vastu? Vas means? Vasa is to reside, to live in. So Vastu, the very word Vastu is saying that you are living in it. Because you are, हम बसते हैं उसमें, इसलिए वास्तु है, right ना? तो वास्तु पुरुषा is the organic nature, ecosystemic nature that is coming from living in it. We are living inside that, that is making it into an ecosystem. That is why we are calling it Vastu Purusha. Okay, this Purusha is nobody, we don't see that Purusha there. There is no Stri also there. Actually, this confusion was there. In World Sanskrit Conference, one lady was taken there to show that Dalits are being suppressed in Sanskrit studies. And during that discussion, they started saying that Purusha Sukta is against feminism, against women, because it is Purusha Sukta. And that Purusha Sukta is saying that man created everything. Women did not create. Devi Sukta is there. Stri Sukta. But there is no Stri Sukta. It is Shri Sukta. So, Shri Sukta. But there has to be a Stri Sukta which says that Stri created. What is the problem with this view of Purusha Sukta? The word Purusha in Purusha Sukta has no gender. That Purusha is not a male Purusha. That Purusha is organism, life. In Purusha Sukta, the word Purusha refers only to organic nature of the cosmos. It is organic. What is organic nature? The components inside are mutually dependent and they make unit. They all make one unification. That is what the Brahmanosya Mukhamasid, Bahu, Rajanya, Krita, all these things are also giving an organic view. So, if there is a discussion about Varna system being discussed in Purusha Sukta, what are you going to say? Your statement is, Purusha Sukta gives me an organic way of looking at society. What is organic way of looking at society? It tells me that units of society, 4 different components of society are mutually dependent. They make a unity. They give a unified picture. That is what Purusha Sukta is telling me about society. It is giving me a unification picture. How components of it give a life. They are mutually dependent. And you are students of Sanskrit, you can easily understand the whole problem there is 2 different vibhaktis have been used. Panchami vibhakti has been used and also Chaturthi somewhere. People thought that because, for example, Brahmano asya mukham asit, right? So, it is Prathama. But then they said, Padbhyam Shudro Ajayata, they thought Padbhyam is Panchami Vibhakti. So, Shudra has come from the feet, they started thinking. So, he has come from the feet. Because he has come from the feet, Brahmana has come from the mouth, they started saying. Where is from there? Panchami Vibhakti is there? It is Prathama Vibhakti. Brahmana asya mukham asit. Then you have to have a unity for Auchitya. For unity, you have to say Padbhyam also should not be Panchami Vibhakti. So, if it is taken as Chaturthi, it means that for feet, that is to become feet, Shudro Ajayata. Right? So, Shudra is the feet. Shudra did not take birth from the feet. Ajayata is just past tense. Ajayata. He was born from that. No, why? Why Ajayata needs from Panchami Vibhakti? Asit, okay. Okay, that's okay. It is born. Ajayata means was born. Okay. Birth took place for. Birth took place for. Birth took place not from. Birth took place is okay. But birth took place not from but for. You understand that? That's what I said Chaturthi. Okay. So, birth took place, I am not differing with that. Birth took place, Ajayata is past tense of Jan only, definitely. So, there is a unity of understanding. So, will you be able to answer if people talk about this Brahmanosya Mukhamasid? Can you give the right understanding now? You are going to say that this is organic unity. So, Shudra is not born from the feet. Shudra is born only, born, not asit. Ajayata only, born only, but for feet. That is to become the feet. That is, he has become the feet. He is the feet. So finally he is the feet. If Shudra is the feet, can you cut the feet of a body and say feet is not required? And is feet something hateable? Do you hate your feet? Do you hate your feet? Who hates his feet? Tell me, I will cut their feet. Please, because it is hateable, why do you want to have it? Cut it. Don't have it. It is such a hateable thing. See, there are many things from which in our own body we get disgust. For example, our anus. We get disgust, but we need it. That is the most important part of our body, because without that, toxins develop in our body. They say constipation is the mother of all diseases, right? So you have to have those parts of your body also which can create disgust in you. They are all required. Every part of your body is required. That is given the name organic nature, organic entity. So society is also an organic entity. Cosmos is also an organic entity. If they say that feet and head have hierarchical view, then there is inside Purusha Sukta, you have other planets also which are described as head and feet. So those planets also have hierarchy among themselves. Planets do not have any hierarchy. This planet is greater than this planet. So if anything that is compared to feet is bad and hateable, it should be like that. And Ganga is Vishnupada Sambhava. So if anything that is Pada Sambhava is hateable, Ganga should be the most hateable, because it is Vishnupada Sambhava. So with all these reasonings, we can show that the view in Purusha Sukta is organic view of the whole cosmos. And whenever you have an organic view, it has got an Atman. For example, Vastu Purusha, there is Vastu Atman. That residence also has got an Atman. Bathroom has got an Atman. Forest has got an Atman. Right? And whenever there is an Atman and there is an organic entity, inside that Purusha, there is Sangati Karana that is taking place. Did you hear Sangati Karana anywhere in Dhatvartha? Yaja. Right? Among the meanings of Yaja Dhatu, you have Sangati Karana. What is Sangati Karana? Connection, organization, management of various components. So what is Yaja then? Connecting, coordinating, connecting various components. So through Yajna, what are you doing? You are connecting various components. Which components are you connecting? For example, you are sending herbs which are fertilizing, you are sending them into clouds. Do you know that there is acid rain? Acid rains come. How do acid rains come? You send sulfur dioxide, that combines with oxygen and becomes sulfur trioxide, that joins water and becomes sulfuric acid, that comes down in the form of acid. If that is possible, can we send fertilizers into the clouds and make fertilizers rain? If you send fertilizers into the fire and send fertilizer smokes, those fertilizer smokes go into clouds and fertilizer rain comes. That is what we are doing in Yajna. In Yajna, we are sending fertilizers. Instead of acid rains, we are creating fertilizer rains. And we are creating pesticidal rains also. What are pesticides? The krimi that comes into the agricultural fields, into the crops, whatever chemicals kill them, they are called pesticides. Pest is the worm that eats the agricultural crops, right? And cidal, wherever you use CIDAL, it means killing. Pesticidal means pest killing. Pesticidal chemicals are applied through spraying, but in Yajna they are sending pesticidal herbs into the clouds and they are killing the organisms there. So, fertilizer rains and pesticidal rains are being created. When it is fertilizer rain, we call it Paustika Yajna. When it is pesticidal rain, we call it Shantika Yajna. Okay. You have two words, medicines and tonics. Medicines are given when there is a disease. To control a disease or to remove the disease, we use medicines. When are tonics used? The word tonic itself is that which tones up. Toning. Toning means giving more strength. You already have strength. If you want more strength, we have to tone it up. What tones you up is tonic. Okay. ज़्यादा पोषण जो देता है उसको टॉनिक बोलते हैं. So, yajnas can be classified into tonic yajnas and medicinal yajnas. Tonic yajnas are paustika yajnas. Do you know that there is a classification of yajnas into paustika and shantika? There is one basic classification of yajnas into paustika and shantika. Paustika yajnas are tonic yajnas, which are fertilizer yajnas. We send fertilizers into clouds and they come. So, what are you doing there? You are doing Sangati Karana. That is why Yajadhatu has got Sangati Karana in it. We hear that Yajadhatu has so many Deva Puja, that, this, all these meanings, but Sangati Karana is also given. How there is Sangati Karana in Yajna, no one tells you. Did anyone tell you where is Sangati Karana in Yaj? Actually, the basic meaning of Yaj in Yajna is Sangati Karana only. Through Yajna, we are doing Sangati Karana of various components of nature. And this Sangati Karana is already happening in nature. Even without our interference, forest has got a Sangati Karana in it. That means forest is already a Yajna. Inside a house, inside a residence also, this Sangati Karana, coordination is happening by itself, self-regulation is already happening. That means that house, a residence is also a Yajna. All the components of nature, all the different ecosystems of nature are Yajnas because in each ecosystem Sangati Karana is happening. Yajna is already happening. So, how is the cosmic ecosystem run? Cosmic ecosystem is being run with the help of sub-ecosystems, right? And these sub-ecosystems are being processed. What is processing? For example, in cooking, we send some eatable materials, edible materials, and they change their form, right? They change their original form, they get cooked. That is called pachanam. Pachanam is taking place, right? And in 8th chapter of Bhagavad Gita, when Arjuna asks Krishna, Adhiyajna kaham ko atra, he says, he does not answer it there. In 15th chapter, he says, I am praninam deham ashritaha, pachami annam chaturvidham. That pachanam is yajna. That is why he is adhiyajnaha. He says adhiyajnaha ahameva atra. Adhiyajnaha ahameva atra. Kutaha yajanam is taking place. That yajanam is pachanam. Pranapana samayuktaha pachami annam chaturvidham. That pachanam is the yajna that is taking place. That is why I am the adhiyajna here. I am aham Vaishvanaro Bhutva. That Vaishvanaraha is the processor there. That is the fire there. And every day when we start our food taking, we say Pranaya Swaha, Panaya Swaha, all these things, only because we are doing Yajna. Right? When we do this Yajna, if we are sending materials which are tasty for Rakshasas, Rakshasas sitting in our body, they are very happy. Send it, they will take it. For example, if you are sending alcohol, who is happy? The Rakshasa sitting here, he is very happy. If the alcohol bottle comes here, here he is already celebrating. Come. He is the Rakshasa. Rakshasas are sitting here. Rotten food, for example. Rotten food, if it is kept here, there is a Rakshasa, disease Rakshasa that is sitting here. That fellow is very happy. He says, come, come. Rotten egg, rotten meat, rotten fish, rotten pastry from a bakery. You just look at it, there is some happiness going on here to the Rakshasa sitting. Disease Rakshasas, disease worms, disease particles sitting in our body, they are the Rakshasas sitting. And if you are looking at healthy food, for example, Brahmi is a medicine, Ayurvedic medicine, you know that? It comes from a leaf called Saraswati leaf. If it is sitting there, the Indra here is very happy, because Indra means our intellect only. Our intellect is very happy. Brahmi helps in intellect, Indra. So he is saying, send it to me. Our shoulder power is called Ashwani Devatas. So if protein food is seen here, Ashwani Devatas keep saying, send it, I am going to take it. When food is sent inside, without our knowledge we are saying, Indraya Swaha. Even if we don't say Indraya Swaha, it goes only to Indra, because Brahmi is for Indra only. We are sending many such vitamins which are helpful for various components. So who is taking all these to different devatas? Vaishvanara sitting here. Agni Mukhavai Devaha, that is why. Vaishvanara Agni is taking it to this devata here, this devata here, this devata. All these devatas are sitting there waiting. Please send it, please give me intellect, please give me shoulder power. They are all sitting in our body and they are asking for healthy food. Without your knowledge, if you are giving power to Rakshasas, they get power. In that fight, Devasura Yuddha, sometimes Asuras win. Right? Whenever Asuras win in your body, you are getting diseases. Whenever diseases come, what are you doing? You are saying, Vishnu, go and kill them. Avatara has to go. Your tablet is the Avatara. You send it, it goes. It actually, this tablet is not directly the Avatara. Avatara is already inside. We call it Savitri Shakti. You know that there is Savitri Shakti in us? What is Savitri Shakti? Tell me. Not Surya. To understand Savitri Shakti, you just put the Upasarga Pra in front of Savitri. Prasavitru Shakti. Shui. Savitru has Shui Dhatu in it. Shui is what? What is the meaning of Shui Dhatu? So, Prasava is to give birth. Shui Prani Prasave is the meaning. So, Prasavitru Shakti it is. What is it giving birth to? Dhiyaha. What is there in Gayatri Mantra? We are saying Dhiyaha Prachodayat, right? So, that Prachodana is the Prasava that is taking place. Generation, controlling, driving, inspiring, that is already there in your body. Prasavitru Shakti is already there in your body. If there is a cut, how is it automatically getting repaired? Because of the Prasavitru Shakti. Prasavitru Shakti is already there. Bones can get regenerated, nerves get regenerated. There is a recapitulation power in us. That recapitulation power is called Prasavitru Shakti. Remove Pra, it is Savitru Shakti. That Savitru Shakti is being worshipped by us 3 times a day or 2 times a day, at least 1 time a day. We are meditating on that. Dhimahi means I am focusing my attention. In the afternoon, you were not able to focus your attention, you were able to see here or there, right? But if you focus your attention onto Prasavitru Shakti with concentration, what happens is it gets enhanced. That Savitru Shakti gets enhanced. That Savitru Shakti is inside you, not in Surya. But it is there in Surya for the Virat Purusha. Right? For the Virat Purusha, it is there in Surya, and from there it is coming to you also. The Savitru Shakti in you and Savitru Shakti in Surya are connected with each other. Do you know that they are connected? When they taught you food chain, did they tell you that at the bottom of the food chain there is greenery, there are plants? How do plants make their food? Through photosynthesis. Where is the light coming from there for them? Through that Savitru Shakti. Savitru Shakti of Surya is creating the plants, and from the bottom of the food chain all others are getting the food. So how Surya is the Poshaka of all of us is because he is creating photosynthesis and he is creating greenery in the plants, and from the bottom of the food chain everything is going upwards to all the other animals. That is how Surya is patronizing all of us, he is nourishing all of us. Okay. So Surya is the Savitru Shakti for all of us that way, and Surya is doing the yajna. Just as Vaishvanara is doing the yajna here, Surya is doing the yajna there. Okay. So whole cosmos, every ecosystem is a yajna, and that big yajna is yajna of yajnas. That huge yajna is being processed by component yajnas. You understand that? See, it is very simple. The huge ecosystem, cosmic ecosystem is made up of smaller ecosystems. All the smaller ecosystems together are making cosmic ecosystem. So all the smaller yajnas are making the big yajna. If I am saying this, one line from Purusha Sukta should come to your mind. When I say big yajna, there are smaller yajnas. With smaller yajnas, big yajna is taking place. Yajnena yajnam ayajanta deva. Yajnena yajnam ayajanta. Where are these yajnas? These smaller yajnas, lower ecosystems, component ecosystems, are being put as havis into the big yajna. Who is conducting this yajna? Devaha. Where are these devaha? In the afternoon I was telling outside this class, for us Hindus, devas are not there in the sky. Devas are with us. We know Saraswati. Where is Saraswati? In you. You are studying Vidya. That Vidya itself is Saraswati. You are doing Saraswati. There is nothing like Saraswati sitting there. You are watching her, you are worshipping her, nothing of that sort. If you have respect towards your Vidya, that is worship of Saraswati. This Mangal Aarti करना, नारियल को तोड़ना, ये सब पूजा नहीं है. इसमें क्या है? पूजा का मतलब है have respect for Vidya in you. Have respect, for example, for if you are a musician, if you are dedicated towards your music, you are doing Saraswati Puja. If you are not dedicated towards your music in you, you are not doing Saraswati Puja. And there is no other way of doing Saraswati Puja than being dedicated to the music in you, or the sculpting art in you, or the painting art in you, or the architectural art in you, or any other art. If you are dedicated, if you love that, you are doing Saraswati Puja. And that Saraswati Puja can happen by worshipping the Saraswati in the other person also. Whenever you say, for example, he has Vidya, whenever you say Namaste to him, you are doing Namaste to the Saraswati in him, Vidya in him. Start feeling this, that is Vibhuti Yoga. What Bhagavan says in Vibhuti Yoga is this only. Shrimat Urjitam. Where is that Shri? That Shri is in the form of Vidya in him, Saraswati in him, Kala in him. He is a musician, that music in him. Just look at a musician when he performs, just from the audience say namaskara to him, you are doing Saraswati puja there. When you look at a good painting, just imagine that painter and say Saraswati in you. Even if he is a foreigner, Leonardo da Vinci, some painter, say, I say namaskara to the Saraswati in him. Lakshmi, we know Lakshmi, we live with Lakshmi. Lakshmi is the auspiciousness in our houses. Lakshmi is the prosperity that is there in nature. Actually, recently one Swamiji from some other mutt was sitting with me, and in spite of being a Swamiji, he was asking me, sir, why do we have such erotic descriptions of nature in our stotras? Erotic means sexual descriptions in our stotras. They talk about big breasts in the stotras. What is this nonsense? Why should they do all this? Then I quoted one shloka which all of you know. Sangeetam api sahityam saraswatyastanadvayam ekam apatamadhuram anyat alochanamrutam. So what is the sthana there? For example, when you are enjoying sahitya, you are getting fed by, you are sucking milk from one of the breasts of Ma Saraswati. Right? And when you are enjoying music, you are sucking the milk from the breasts of Ma Saraswati, another breast of Ma Saraswati. It is not useful to just recite these shlokas, you have to feel it. You have to experience that. When you are sitting in a music concert, you should feel, I am sucking milk from the breasts of Ma Saraswati. Right? And to this Swamiji I told, when you are looking at crops, full of crop, all the crop has come up, prosperous, then it is full heavy with the fruits in it. When it is heavy, it is swinging very slowly. That is why we call Mata as Madalasa, Mada Alasa. It is moving slowly because there is Mada. What is the Mada in that? The prosperity, the greenery, the fruits in it. There is a mango tree, for example, it is full of mangoes. Then it is so heavy that it moves very slowly. That is Madalasa. Madalasam Manjula Vagvilasam. Right? We call nature as soft speaking, Manjula Vagvilasa. That nature is Mata, that nature is our Lakshmi. If there is agricultural crop in your house, that is Lakshmi, Dhanya Lakshmi in your house. They used words like Gajalakshmi also, because those days elephants were also considered to be prosperity. And Sasya Lakshmi, Dhanya Lakshmi, Vidya Lakshmi, Santana Lakshmi. They have used all these words, but we don't feel them. Once we start feeling them, we know that these devatas are with us. Lakshmi is with us. Saraswati is with us. Fire, the most important god for us, the Vedic people. Where is fire? Not only that flame, that red color, yellow color flame. Your Vaishvanara, your hunger is called Agni. Do you know that in Ayurveda they call it, whenever there is an appetizer, they call it Agni Deepana. Appetite means your hunger, your ability to digest, your ability to take things into your stomach is called appetite. Okay, so that appetite in Ayurveda is called Agni. And if there is an appetizer, they call in Ayurveda Agni Deepana Vastu. Okay, so you have to feel that Agni in you, and that Agni is there outside in the form of Agni in the Homa, Agni in the Yajna, and Agni in the form of Surya. Everywhere there is that Agni, and if you, once you start understanding this that way, you will feel Agni everywhere, you will live with him. If you are studying chemistry, did they tell you that reactions are exothermic and endothermic? Reactions are of two kinds, exothermic and endothermic. Exotherm, therm means heat, Exothermic means chemical reactions from which heat comes out. Endo means inside. Endothermic reactions are those chemical reactions into which heat goes. So, that chemical reaction needs heat, it takes heat inside, and from some other reactions heat comes out. And why it happens? In physics and chemistry they teach you heat content. Every object has got its own heat content, that is called enthalpy. They use the word enthalpy for heat content, the internal energy that is there. And when chemical reactions take place, if the total amount of heat content of the reactants is more than the total amount of heat content of the products, then the extra heat comes out in the form of that heat coming out, that is called exothermic reaction. If the total amount of heat content of the products is more, then that has to be supplied by you from outside. So, there is heat content inside every object, we know this, and we are supplying, we are getting it out. So, heat is everywhere, this processor, heat is the whole processor, that is why we are calling Agni Mukhavai Devahan, Agni is everywhere. We have to feel this, all these gods in us. When we feel them, when we know that they exist everywhere, we are not imagining them, they are not in the sculptures, they are not in the idols, we are able to see them everywhere in our own body, in the cosmic body also. Then we know that they are the ones who are doing this yajna. Yajnena yajnam ayajanta devaha. All these devaha, the Saraswati, the Lakshmi, the Indra that are there in nature, they are the ones who are conducting this yajna, the cosmic yajna, right? And if you read Purusha Sukta now, again going back home, you will realize that they are saying that cosmic Purusha has thrown himself into that as Havis. Tat Purushena Havisha, it says, right? That Purushena Havisha, that Purusha himself, that cosmic person, that cosmic organism himself has become the Havis into that. That is, the cosmic organism is processing itself. It is a self-processing that is happening in the cosmos. So, that way of looking at nature itself is our environmental understanding. We are looking at nature from the Purusha Sukta is giving you a whole cosmic environmental understanding of ecosystems processing themselves. So, if you start understanding things this way, you are doing Vedic environmental studies. Okay? Would you like to start from today? Whenever you see some ecosystem, you have to say this is a Purusha, this has got Atman, and I am part of it, I am a Purusha. The Purusha in me is not the body, like Sankhya says. The body is only the Prakriti part of it. The Purusha inside is different. And Dvavimau Purusha Loke Sharascha Akshara Evacha. The body part is only the Kshara part of it. But the Akshara Purusha is there. And there is another Purusha, Purushottama. Uttama Purushastu Anyaha. Right? Paramatmeti. That is there. So, if you start imagining these things, if you start feeling these things and view ecosystems that way, you are doing Vedic environmental activity, Vedic environmental studies. Okay? Once you start looking at things this way, let me tell you, people have said ecological crisis has come. We are in an ecological crisis today. Did you hear this word ecological crisis in environmental studies? Okay, make a note. They use the word ecological crisis. We are in ecological crisis today, environmental crisis today. Whatever problems that we are able to see, climate change, increase of heat, they talk about global warming. That global warming, climate change, all this is called ecological crisis. We are in a crisis. And there is an article called Roots of the Ecological Crisis. Roots of the ecological crisis. Author of this article is Lynn White Jr. Spelling is on the board. Lynn White Jr. He is an American historian who traced the origins of this ecological crisis and said that ecological crisis started because of Genesis of the Bible. Why? In what way Genesis of the Bible is connected to ecological crisis? He says this Genesis is a portion of the holy book, the Bible. It is that part of the Bible where the story of Adam and Eve is described. You know the story of Adam and Eve, and the tree of knowledge, its fruit was prohibited. They ate the fruit. That whole story that is described in Genesis. This man, Lynn White Jr. says, inside that part there is a statement. God, Jehovah, the Almighty God, tells the first human that the whole nature is created for you to enjoy. Enjoy it. Take everything from it. Once that was told, people started thinking that all nature is there only to be exploited by us. Earlier to Christianity, earlier to this Genesis, earlier to the ideas from the Genesis, all over the world there were animisms. Animisms means looking at nature as something having spirit. Right? Tree has a spirit, anthill has a anthill means the heap of mud in which a snake exists. That is called anthill. Right? So those anthills are worshipped. We worship them. We worship Manasa Devi, that is snake also is worshipped. We worship all kinds of nature forms, right? All these nature forms are believed to have spirit. So to consider things to be having spirit in them is called animism. Animistic way of looking at things. And when we say that there is God everywhere, there is godliness, divinity everywhere, that is called pantheism. That is called pantheism. 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 Theos. The word theos in Greek language, you can see because you are students of Sanskrit, theos is Dios, Divya. The word Divya is closely related to theos in Greek language. So pantheos, pan means sarva. Pantheism means to be able to see divyatva everywhere. Sarvatra divyatvam asti. This is pantheism, divyatvam. Sarvam khal vidam brahma. Ishavasyam idam sarvam. That way of looking at things is called pantheism. Pantheism. Ishavasyam idam sarvam, sarvam khal vidam brahma kind of view is called pantheism. Right? And this pantheism, even among those people who do not utter these Upanishadic lines, rural people for example, tribal people also, pantheism is there in their philosophy. Without their knowledge, they don't say it in so many words of Upanishadic lines or any such thing, but they say that everything is divine. God is everywhere. My tribal God is everywhere. My tribal goddess is everywhere. The gods that we rural people worship are also everywhere. So they too have pantheism. And this pantheism is coming from their animistic way, that is looking at spirit. We use the word adhidaivika aspect of the adhibhautika entities. All the bhautika entities, all the kshara entities. What is adhibhautika? Again in 8th chapter itself, Krishna is answering Arjuna, adhibhuta ksharo bhavaha. Right? So that bhautika entities are kshara entities, and what are adhidaivika entities? The spirit, the divyatva in every bhautika entity is adhidaivika. Okay. So, when we are able to see it that way, we are able to enjoy nature, worship nature, love nature that way. We did not kill it. But when Christianity came, I am not saying this. Who said? Lynn White Jr. So, don't think that I am an anti-Christian person or any such thing. Who is anti-Christian, if at all? It is Lynn White Jr. But he is a historian after all. He is a historian, he is an American historian. He is scientifically, logically, through his historical procedure, he is saying, for example, in England, we know England today, there is another book if you want to read, Man's Responsibility for Nature. What is the title of the book? Man's Responsibility for Nature. The author of this book is Passmore. Passmore. It is a good practice here that you are not allowed smartphones inside the class or laptops inside the class. It's a good practice, I like it. But in my other classes, students always have smartphones in their hands. When I say Passmore, immediately they do Google search for Passmore, Man's Responsibility for Nature. Immediately they get all the details of the author, book publisher, where the book is published. But you have to do it after going home, after going to your rooms, open your smartphones, open your laptops. Oh, okay. Okay. Okay, research students can keep. All the BS students go to research students' room.
Even for the integrated MA students, we have kept our lab open or free of access anytime.
Yeah, they can go to the lab. Whatever is the way, you have to go to the internet. Right? Check for these books. You go, just mention Lynn White Jr., immediately you will get this article, Roots of the Ecological Crisis. Or you get, just type Roots of the Ecological Crisis, you will get all the details of Lynn White Jr. and the article and all that. You have to search like that. Otherwise, some professor or somebody can come and give some fake title, some fake book or something like that, and you go search, nothing of that sort. अरे ये तो हमको उल्लू बना के गया है, उल्लू बना के गया है ना. अगर मैं तुम लोगों को उल्लू बना रहा हूं या नहीं, लैब में जाकर चेक करना, इंटरनेट में देखना. यदि ये है, this article is there or not, download the article, take a print out, go to your room, read the whole article. Okay? And this Man's Responsibility for Nature, it's a big book, it's not available in print, but maybe some portions of that are uploaded as PDFs in the internet. Go have a look at it. Okay, the point in Man's Responsibility for Nature is, he starts the book with lamenting that the whole society today is blaming the West for the ecological crisis. It is true. It is true that in all the environmental literature, while discussing ecological crisis, every environmentalist blames the West for the ecological crisis, Western societies for ecological crisis. This is true. In what way West is responsible for the ecological crisis? Different people give different reasons. One of the main reasons they give is science and technology. This science has been an anti-nature science because they have always said we want to control nature, just as Hiranyakashipu or Hiranyaksha says, we want to control Agni. Is this not what Rakshasas said? They said we want to control Agni, we want to keep him as our servant in our house, Indra as servant in our house, Vayu as servant in your house. Imagine who is Indra, who is Vayu, who is Agni. Vayu is controlled through fan. right? Fire is being controlled through fire tools that we have, all cookers and other things. So science and technology also wanted to do what Rakshasas wanted to do, to control nature. So people say that this attitude of controlling nature, exploiting nature, dominating nature that existed in science and technology, that is responsible for the whole thing. There is another book, Technology and Human Destiny, by Skolimowski, Henryk Skolimowski. Already BA students started getting bored, no? Books and books and books all the time. Authors, books names. हाँ? कितने बुक्स बताता है? पढ़ने के लिए टाइम नहीं मिलता है. ये तो पागल होगा, ये कब पढ़ा होगा ये सब? पढ़ते ही जाता है क्या? टेक्नोलॉजी, ह्यूमन डेस्टिनी, हेनरिक स्कॉलिमोव्स्की, लिन वाइट, पैसमोर, पढ़ते ही बैठ गया क्या? आप भी पढ़ना चाहिए. यूनिवर्सिटी को इसलिए आते हैं, पढ़ना है. इधर पढ़ने के अलावा कोई और काम नहीं रहता है ना. टेक्नोलॉजी एंड ह्यूमन डेस्टिनी. द ऑथर ऑफ दिस बुक इज Henryk Skolimowski. सर वो क्या बोला, वो शॉर्ट में बोल दीजिए, पढ़ने का ज़रूरत नहीं हुआ है ना. मैं शॉर्ट में बता दे रहा हूँ वो क्या बोल दिया है. दिस बुक टेक्नोलॉजी एंड ह्यूमन डेस्टिनी आर्ग्यूज that we thought till today that science and technology are neutral. Science and technology have no bias. पक्ष नहीं लेता है विज्ञान. साइंस एक पक्ष नहीं लेता है. साइंस निष्पक्ष है ऐसे सोचते थे. साइंस तटस्थ है ऐसे सोचते थे आज तक. He says that belief in 1980s he wrote this book. In 1980s itself he said that this belief that science and technology is neutral, value free, objective, unbiased is wrong, because this science and technology had this attitude of controlling nature, dominating nature, exploiting nature. That is bias. It is biased against nature. So to imagine that science and technology is neutral is wrong. It is objective is wrong. It is a product. Technology is a product of the culture from which it comes. Any technology is a product of the culture from which it comes. If the culture is exploitative, technology is also exploitative. Okay, from which culture our technology has come? It has come from European culture. And do you know what European culture was at the time of emergence of science and technology? They were all business people, merchants. That is the reason they tried all the way to find an earth route, sea route for India, because they lost their earth route through which they were doing business with India. They wanted to search for sea routes for India because they lost business. They were business people basically. If you study European history, you will realize that the so-called kings of those nation states were heads of the mercantile guilds only. बड़ा वैश्य, जिसको हम पुराने ज़माने में महाश्रेष्ठी कहते थे, महाजन कहते थे, श्रेष्ठी कहते थे, वह महाश्रेष्ठी ही राजा बनता था उधर. हमारे यहाँ तो राजा अलग होता है, महाश्रेष्ठी अलग होता है, महाजन अलग होता है, महावैश्य अलग होता है. वहाँ महावैश्य ही, महाश्रेष्ठी ही राजा बन गया था. इसलिए बिजनेस वॉज वेरी इंपॉर्टेंट फॉर देम, इंडस्ट्रियलाइजेशन वॉज वेरी इंपॉर्टेंट फॉर देम, कंज्यूमरिज्म, मार्केट वॉज वेरी इंपॉर्टेंट फॉर देम. इन देयर ब्लाइंडनेस फॉर मार्केट, in their blindness for industry, in their madness for manufacturing, they did not mind whatever environmental crisis that they were creating. They were madly after business, trade, commerce. They forgot what they were doing. All this I am not saying, environmentalists are saying. All the environmentalist books are saying. Not only me, every environmentalist literature, every environmentalist book says. And after reading all those books, this Passmore, author of the book Man's Responsibility for Nature, he says, please don't blame us, the Western society. I am a Western person, I am hurt, I am offended to read in so many books that Western society is responsible, Western society is responsible. He started weeping in that book. When you read that book, in the first pages there are his tears. Every page. Then first page, wipe the tears. Second page, wipe the tears. After 10, 30 pages, you will start weeping yourself. Okay, Baba. Okay, Baba. West को हम गालियाँ नहीं देंगे. बस करो, बंद करो. After 30 pages, you will start feeling this. He goes on weeping in the first 30 pages. Then he starts saying, okay, now that you are blaming us, let me tell you, before Christianity entered our country, England, he is an English author, British author, before Christianity entered our country, we were also animists. We were tribal people. Do you know how English society has come into existence? Originally, there were two tribes called Anglicans and Saxons. You want to make a note of these words? Anglicans and Saxons. Anglicans, Saxons. These two are two different tribes. Later, in the beginning, they fought among themselves. Later, they merged with each other. They got assimilated with each other. A combined tribe got formed that was called Anglo-Saxon tribe. Okay. In English language, when you remove all the Greek words, Latin words, French words, and all the foreign words from English, the core of English, the root of English that remains is called Anglo-Saxon English. Okay, the root of English is called Anglo-Saxon English. That is very small. In actually, if you take all the dictionary words, all the dictionary entries in English vocabulary and go on looking for the etymology, that is roots, vyutpatti, yoga, at the end of every entry in dictionaries, they give you the etymology, word origin. There they tell you it is from Greek, it is from Latin, it is from French. If you remove all those words, the Anglo-Saxon vocabulary remains to be very, very small. Only a few hundred or a very small number remains. That Anglo-Saxon vocabulary comes from that tribe, Anglican tribe and Saxon tribe. So those tribes, he says in this book, we as our Anglo-Saxon tribe, our original tribal people, we were also worshipping trees. We were also taking permission from a tree before cutting the tree, because we believed in the presiding deities of the tree. He uses the word presiding deity of the tree. Is there any bell ringing in you when I say presiding deity? Adhishtatru devata, adhidevata. We use these words, right? Adhidevata, adhishtatru devata. He is saying presiding deity. We were believing in presiding deity of a tree, and we used to take permission from the presiding deity of the tree. And even after he gives us permission to cut the tree only when we promise that we are going to grow another tree. Then only he gives us permission. This is happening among our tribes also today. Whether it is Santalis or any other tribe, they take permission from the tree god, tree deity. We are also doing the same. We don't cut trees so easily. We don't even fell our house, our walls of our house also so easily. We have to do some puja before felling the house. Felling means to make it fall. It is preranarthaka kriya of fall. Preranarthaka kriya for fall is fell. Okay? Fell means to make it fall. Okay? So when we fell a wall,
Anglicans and Saxons. In which region they lived? Was it in two different regions in Britain?
within the British land there, they lived side by side. Most of these tribes even today, when we see even in India, if there are two tribes, they live side by side only.
Ireland, like that?
Not exactly Ireland, even very close to Ireland, but in the main part of England only they used to live. And in Ireland, some other tribes were living. That Irish part, some other tribes were living there. So all those tribes, he says, Passmore says, they were worshipping trees. So they were like us. We are also like them, right? So remember, before these Abrahamic religions entered, Islam, Christianity, Judaism never went outside that Israel part. So only Jews went out, along with them they took Judaism with them to the whole parts of the world, but they did not convert other people. Only Islam and Christianity converted other people. So before these two Abrahamic religions, Islam and Christianity, went all around the world, the whole world was having either these animistic cultures or polytheistic cultures with temples, with idols. Egyptian polytheism was there, Mayan polytheism was there, Inca was there, Aztecs were there, right? All these polytheistic communities were there all over the world. It means that all over the world, people like us were there. We have polytheism, Bahudevata Aradhana. Bahudevata Aradhana was there all over the world. All communities all over the world has Bahudevata Aradhana only. And they also had Vigraha Aradhana that we have. They also had Devalayas that we have. And if you go to, for example, Greece today, those temples are closed. They are not being used because all the Greeks have got converted into Christianity. But the archaeology department there, for tourism purposes, to attract tourists, what it does is, it recreates the whole old worship process, just to attract the tourists there. You go there and try to participate in the worship procedure that they are creating in front of those temples, you would feel as though you are living in India. In a Hindu temple, there is a grass sold there. We also buy grass, and you buy some color powders. These color powders have to be taken there. Grass is to be offered. There is a priest sitting inside, pretending to be the ancient Greek priest. He sits there. He enacts that old procedure. It looks as though it is all Hinduism only. You would feel that Hinduism was there in Greece. Actually, it was like Hinduism only. Mayans were also like that. Incas were also like that. Aztecs were also like that. All over the world, cultures which were similar to us were there. So, Passmore is also saying that animism was there among Anglo-Saxons. And it is Christianity which killed animism. Only after Christianity killed animism, we became responsible for ecological crisis. This author is saying, Passmore is saying, I am not saying. Lynn White is saying, they are tracing the history of ecological crisis. They themselves are saying that when animism existed, there was no problem. When polytheism was existing, there was no problem. When pantheism was existing, there was no problem. इसका मतलब क्या है? बहुदेवत आराधक लोग पर्यावरण को कोई हानि पहुंचा नहीं सकते हैं. एनिमिस्टिक लोग, जो लोग हर कोई वस्तु में उसका आधिदैविक शक्ति को देखते हैं, दिव्य शक्ति, दिव्यत्व को देखते हैं, पर्यावरण को कोई हानि पहुंचा नहीं सकते हैं. That is what they are saying. I am not saying. They are saying that before Christianity entered, whatever polytheistic religions, animistic religions were existing, they did not do any harm to the environment. Only after this way of looking at things, that everything in nature is there only to be exploited by you, environmental crisis started coming. Whether it came from Christianity or science and technology itself was an arrogant culture towards nature, that is why they started exploiting nature, we do not know. We don't want to even make allegations against Christianity also. Whatever was the reason was arrogance towards nature. This arrogance towards nature, we in our Puranas depict to be the feature of Rakshasas. Right? All Rakshasas are depicted to be arrogant towards nature. For example, we were discussing that yajna is an environmental process, right? Environmental friendly process, eco-friendly process. What was Maricha and Subaha doing at the time of Vishwamitra's yajna? They were throwing mans, rakta, everything into that, right? So, what were they doing? A nature friendly activity was being disturbed, and the materials that were meticulously, scientifically, chemically, ayurvedically planned, those herbs were being put by Vishwamitra and other rishis into the yajna. This fellow thought, I should throw whatever comes to my hand and disturb that in such a way that environmental friendly activity gets disturbed. So, these Rakshasas, Maricha and Subahu, all these people, they were anti-environmental people. So, whenever we saw any anti-environmental person or any anti-environmental attitude, we gave them the name Asura, Danava, Daitya, Rakshasa. Let us imagine that there are no such people, but that is just an attitude. We are giving a form to that attitude, and to that form we are giving the name Rakshasa. Let us, actually it is true also, actually probably there were no Rakshasas at all. We just looked at this attitude itself as Rakshasa and gave it a form. But this Rakshasa pravritti was part of science and technology from the beginning. This is not what I am saying. This is what all environmentalist books are saying. They did not use the word Danava or Rakshasa or Daitya. They said that arrogance towards nature that existed at the beginning of science and technology, that is responsible for environmental crisis. This is what they said, but I am just adding that that attitude is called Rakshasa attitude, Asura attitude, Danava attitude, Daitya attitude. Okay, that is why in Bhagavad Gita also we don't talk about Asuras, we talk about Asuri pravritti. Right? We don't talk about divers, we talk about only Daivi pravritti. Daivi and Asuri are pravrittis, they are features, they are certain attitude. We are giving the name to it, right? Okay, so that pravritti was there in the early science and technology people, those Europeans. That is what led to environmental crisis, is well acknowledged throughout environmental literature. Read any book, they tell this. And what is the right attitude towards nature? In Bhagavad Gita, at a certain place, Bhagavan says, Saha yajnah prajan sruštva purovacha prajapati. Right? What did he say? Prajapati, what is the instruction to all the people? You treat the devas well, they treat you back well, be friendly to each other. Parasparam bhavayantaha shreyah paramavapsyatha. Who are these devas? We have been discussing till now that devas are not sitting there in skies, they are not there in the idols, they are not any real individuals. Devas are nature forces only. Right? So, treat devas well means treat nature forces well. Treat Prakriti Shakti well. And if you treat Prakriti Shakti well, Prakriti Shakti treats you back very well. So, nature and you be friendly with each other, then that will nourish each other. Nature also gets flourished, nature also gets prosperity, you will also get prosperity. You treat nature well, nature treats you well, you get prosperity, nature gets prosperity, both of you together come up. That is what it is saying. So, when we say that we are nature friendly people, we are not creating any theory. That is there in Bhagavad Gita, well documented in very clear lines, no uncertain lines. स्पष्ट बातों में कहा गया है. Do you agree? Do you agree? So, that is there in Bhagavad Gita. They are saying, Puro Vacha Prajapati. At the time of beginning of the creation itself, he created yajnas which are nature friendly activities. Saha yajnaha prajan sruštva. At the time of creation of Praja itself, he created yajna along with it, and he said, use these yajnas which are nature friendly activities. Then both nature and you come up together. Their devas, that word devas only has to be clearly understood, that devas is actually various nature forces. This everyone knows that devas are nature forces. Even the dullest of the Vedic scholars, today we are calling them dullest scholars, once upon a time we used to worship them. MacDonnell, for example, Max Muller, for example, those people in Vedic reader, MacDonnell publishes a Vedic reader. In the introduction he says, Rig Veda is a beautiful nature. It is romantic poetry. Romantic poetry means nature poetry. It is beautiful nature poetry. Max Muller says it is beautiful nature poetry. Everyone who understood Vedas in the beginning, Rig Veda in the beginning, Europeans, they said it is nature poetry. Okay, Baba, let us agree. For the sake of argument, it is nature poetry. Which are devatas that were being nature? They themselves agree. The early Europeans who are now realized to have misunderstood our Vedas in a very dull way, in a very unintelligent way, even their unintelligent way of understanding Vedas also says that nature forces are the devatas there, right? So, when we say devatas and human beings have to be friendly with each other, even in the dull European understanding, it means obviously that nature forces and human beings have to be friendly with each other. We need not unnecessarily create anything. Ask those dull Europeans. Who are these dull Europeans? MacDonnell, Max Muller kind of people. Once we said moksha mulaha and all that about these fellows like Max Muller, today they are discarded by their own Europeans. They say that, oh, their understanding is all old, it is outdated, they did not understand Vedas properly. But at least even they said that Rig Veda is all nature worshipping hymns. It is all poetry, it is beautiful nature poetry. So, if it is nature worshipping, and then Devas, we are saying we want to be friendly with Devas, we are obviously saying in their own language that we want to be friendly with nature forces, right? So, when we say that we have a philosophy in our books like Bhagavad Gita or Vedas that we want to be friendly with nature, we are not artificially creating anything. It is there in very uncertain terms, very clear terms in the books in the form of these shlokas. So, would you like to quote these shlokas whenever you want to talk about Vedic environmental studies? Okay? Take all those shlokas, you know all of them by heart, but only thing you should do is recite them. If anyone says environmental studies, immediately you should say, come, sit here. I want to give you some shlokas, environmental shlokas. What are those environmental shlokas? Saha yajnan prajan sruštva puro vacha prajapati. You give those shlokas and say, this is environmental studies. Purusha Sukta, that is environmental studies. Vastu Purusha, that is environmental studies. Vastu Purusha is our ecosystemic understanding of every residence. Purusha Sukta is our cosmic ecosystemic understanding. Yajnena yajnam ayajanta devaha is our understanding that huge ecosystems are made up of sub-ecosystems. And every ecosystem is Sangatikarana. And that because Sangatikarana is there, yajna is not being performed, yajna is happening. Yajna, we are not performing yajna, yajnas are already happening in nature. In cosmos, yajnas are already happening. Then we said, Tani dharmani pradhamanyasan.
Even at the individual level, in Paturi Aranyaka, it says, Na apsu mutra purisham kuryat, na nishthi ved. In the Aranyaka, Veda lines.
Yes. So, see very clearly, apsu mutra adi na kuriyat, right? So, you should not do. So, actually there are lines in Rig Veda where earth should not be disturbed, earth should not, violence should not be done against earth. We are doing violence against earth today, right? We are doing violence against earth by digging coal from it. We are running heavy vehicles on the earth. So, Rig Veda already imagined that there is a possibility of people hurting earth. And already in Rig Veda, they say clouds are not to be hurt. Mahimsihi. This line gets repeated in many Rig Vedic and Yajurvedic mantras. There are lines right from the Vedic times that don't hurt, don't hurt, don't hurt. Don't hurt this animal. Don't hurt this tree. Don't hurt this plant. Don't hurt the cloud. Don't hurt the earth. So, that there is a possibility of hurting the cloud was also imagined in Rig Veda. Imagined in the sense that knowledge already existed. That does not mean that Rig Veda is an imagination. That already exists in Rig Veda. The knowledge that is revealed in the form of Rig Veda, it contains this possibility already incorporated there. That we are harming clouds today. What are we doing in the form of acid rains? We are hurting the clouds. That possibility of hurting the clouds has already been discussed in the Rig Vedic mantras. Possibility of hurting the earth has already been discussed in Rig Vedic mantras. So, when we say Himsa Paramo Dharmaha, Yesha Dharma Sanatanaha repeatedly in Mahabharata, people keep saying that this has come newly into Mahabharata with the influence of Buddhism. Absolute nonsense, because this Mahimsihi, this attitude of Mahimsihi has already been there in Veda only. That has been converted into Ahimsa Paramo Dharmaha in Mahabharata, and everyone knows that Mahabharata was composed well before Buddhism. Buddhism is from 5th century BC, and the date of composition of Mahabharata, even according to the Westerners themselves, is 8th century or 9th century BC. So, this Ahimsa Paramo Dharmaha is found in the critical edition created by Suktankar, the Bori critical edition created by Suktankar, which means that the original version of Mahabharata also has this statement Ahimsa Paramo Dharmaha, Yesha Dharma Sanatanaha. 23 times it occurs in the entire Mahabharata. If you count how many times it has come, in the critical edition, 23 times. Every time it comes along with the line Yesha Dharma Sanatanaha only. So, that attitude of not creating violence, not committing violence against nature has been there right from the beginning of the Vedas, and we had this attitude, and that got incorporated into Bhagavad Gita, and Bhagavad Gita documenting. Whatever Bhagavad Gita is doing, it's not newly telling, because Bhagavan says that this was already mentioned, this was already taught, and it has been taught repeatedly. I am teaching you again today. So, it was already there, this kind of understanding was already there, and we have evidence to show to the world that our attitude towards nature was always nature friendly attitude. That nature friendly attitude only, nature friendly yajnas were conducted, and we can prove with analysis that every yajna is a nature friendly activity only. And these yajnas are paustikas, shantikas, and also nitya, naimittika, kamya also. We can have nitya, naimittika and kamya yajnas also. That is, through yajnas we can get what we want. Naimittika is shantika only. So, we can compensate for the harm that we have created to the nature, we can compensate for it, that is naimittika. And nitya, that is, along with nature, whatever is happening in nature, naturally we do our nitya yajna. That also we are doing. So that shows that our yajna understanding, our purusha understanding is an environmental understanding. Okay. So when you want to understand yajna, understand that to be a huge laboratory. Yajna is a huge laboratory where fire engineering is taking place. We call electronic engineering, right? What is electronic engineering? To control electrons is electronic engineering. By controlling electrons, we are getting our own benefits through control of electrons. So if we are controlling fire, through fire if we are getting benefits, it should be called fire engineering. Yajnas are fire engineering, thermal engineering, energy engineering that we were doing, and that was a huge laboratory. Each yajna was a huge laboratory. Otherwise, why should we have our Shulba Sutras and all the geometrical calculations? If it was just a funny activity, some random activity, they would not have gone to those depths of geometry, those shapes, those calculations, those mathematics, all that. So that was a huge science. Yajna was a huge science. That was a nature friendly science, and through that nature friendly science, climate was controlled. Climate was, we were interacting with climate in a very friendly way. Recently, on that Indology list, there was a discussion about whether Sanskrit can control nature. Sanskrit can contribute to climate change. Because some kind of dull fellow on that list, he quoted some statement which was not made by Modi. There was this Monkey Bath that was reported in a newspaper. Some Russian, I think his origin is probably Russian. He quoted that Monkey Bath of Modi and said that Modi said that Sanskrit can do climate change. So, it can contribute to climate change. When I went and searched on the internet, read the whole Man Ki Baat by Modi, there was absolutely no such statement there. He did not say Sanskrit can contribute to climate change. What he said in that Man Ki Baat in a small paragraph is that in Vedas there are certain yajnas. I heard from knowledgeable people that these yajnas can contribute to climate change. This is a very clear statement he made. He did not make a statement that Sanskrit can control climate change. In that list they started discussing, in that group they started discussing how can a language create environmental changes. They started saying Sanskrit, how can it lead to the contribution to climate change? How can Sanskrit lead to climate change? How can a language do this? They went on arguing. Then I went on saying that what they mean is that inside Sanskrit literature there is material that is available to undo the harmful effects that are created by science and technology. This another Rappel, R-U-P-P-E-L, another professor called Rappel, who teaches Sanskrit in the European countries, she also answered that way. She also said that this is what they mean. This is what is meant by Sanskrit contributes to environmental issues, which means that Sanskrit has material, Sanskrit has books in which there are solutions. But in spite of that they went on arguing, how can Sanskrit and all that. Ultimately we said, Baba, thank you. We never said that Sanskrit can contribute. We only said that Sanskrit books have this material. Okay. Even today I am telling all of you that Sanskrit as a language, I am not saying can contribute to environmental welfare. I am only saying that in Sanskrit there are books, in Vedic literature there are books, there is understanding in Rig Veda, in mantras, in Bhagavad Gita, in Purusha Sukta. In all this there is enough material to have an environmentally friendly attitude, environmentally friendly activities, solutions to the existing environmental crisis. All these exist. We are there to use it. We have to use it. If it remains in a book, there is no use. It seems once one person got down the train in a railway station and he was having chai. and his friend came and told him, see, the train is going away, you get into the train. That fellow said, the ticket is in my pocket, how can it go? Right? All the environmental understanding is there in your books, but the train can go. Environmental crisis can be there. Unless you get into the train, there is no use of having the ticket. Don't say ticket is in my pocket, ticket is in my pocket. Train will go. Okay, get into the train. Get into the train means use the knowledge. Use the knowledge that you have in Sanskrit literature, in Vedic literature for creating solutions to the existing environmental crisis. There is an incident reported from Bhopal when there was a gas tragedy there, Union Carbide factory. There was a poisonous gas leaking there. There was a house which was very close to the carbide factory. Entire members of the family of that house were not affected at all. When the whole town was affected, that family did not get affected. The reason was, at that time they were performing havan in their house. It is very well documented, it is there in all newspapers. If you go Gopal gas tragedy havan, you just put these words in Google, you will get this news item. It is well reported that that particular house, in spite of living very close to the factory, actually all other houses which were away from the factory also got affected. But this family, in spite of living very close to the factory, because havan was being conducted inside the house, they did not get affected, because the smokes from the havan counteracted the poisonous gas that was coming into that house. It neutralized. Without their knowledge, they did not think that there was going to be a gas leak, that is why we have to perform havan. They did not think. There was some activity in their house, probably they were followers of either Gajanan Maharaj tradition. There is a Gajanan Maharaj tradition, you know, they they spread havan as a daily practice. There is one Gajanan Maharaj, an Avadhut from Maharashtra. His temple is there in Shegaon, and a person who was inspired by him, he spread havan as a practice all over the world. Today it is an all over the world practice. Or Arya Samaj people also spread havan as a practice. So either this family was an Arya Samaj family or yes, they have a periodical havan. There are many havans happening in Ramakrishna Math also. We have havan, many traditions have havan practice. So probably this house was inspired by one of them. We do not know to which practice they belonged, but they were performing havan as an activity in that house. Accidentally, it was yadruchika, it was just kakataliya that it happened. They were performing havan, exactly at that time the gas leaked and they were saved. That house, even today, none of the members of that family have any bad effect on their body or breath or any other thing, but the entire town, in the vicinity of this factory, they are even today they are suffering. Their diseases that affected them are still there. They are going to hospitals to treat those diseases because of the poisonous effect. So these are proofs, and there is a lot of research going on through the environmental department, ecology department of Government of India about the positive effects of havan on environment, on weather, everything. And we have a scientific understanding behind this, as shown by me in the concept of Purusha, in the concept of Yajna. If we understand those words differently, if we should understand these words, Yajna and other things, through the root, Yaj, Sangati Karana, all these things we should do. We should go to the roots of these concepts and understand these concepts better. Then we will be able to understand that we have a scientific, well documented, elaborate, meticulously explained understanding of environmental friendly attitude towards nature through scientific activities, technological activities called yajnas. Okay, in a very good interaction with Purusha, the cosmic Purusha. Okay, so among the various concepts that we needed, today we covered environmental studies. Maybe the same topic is there even tomorrow. At that time, we will take up one of the other things. I will leave the choice to you. Maybe if you are interested, we will go to Jungian psychoanalysis, archetypes, and all that, psychology, how to understand mythologies in a very psychoanalytical fashion. Or if you are interested in any other aspect like linguistics, historical linguistics, or Indo-European linguistics, or something like that, we can take up that. We have one more class on the same topic. We have a huge list of such concepts that we can cover. My program is to make them part of MA syllabus all over the country. I am going to make it. I will definitely make it. I will meet all the vice chancellors, all the heads of the department. I will force them to make all these things as part of MA Sanskrit syllabus. Okay, someday it will happen. Maybe in another 2 years, 3 years, at the most. In another 5 years, it will definitely happen. All these things are going to be made part of MA Sanskrit syllabus. All the Sanskrit students all over the country should know these things as part of their MA course itself. That is my dream, and definitely that will come true. Okay. So now Shanti Mantra. Rama Krishna Paramastu.
स्थापकाय च धर्मस्य सर्वधर्मस्वरूपिणे अवतारवरिष्ठाय